Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're diving into the final chapters of Deuteronomy,
Okay.
chapters 31 through 34.
All right.
And this is Moses' last message to the Israelites
Yes.
before they enter the Promised Land.
Right.
And it's packed with all kinds of insights about faith and leadership and legacy.
Yeah. It's a really powerful moment in history and scripture.
Yeah.
And, it still speaks to us even today.
Oh, absolutely. So we're starting in chapter 31 with Moses addressing the Israelites.
Right.
He's 120 years old at this point.
Wow.
And he knows he won't be crossing the Jordan River with them into the Promised Land.
Yeah.
Right.
But instead of focusing on, his own departure, he immediately reassures them.
He emphasizes God's constant presence and faithfulness.
Yeah.
And, think about it. They've been through so much together, these Israelites. 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, facing trials and challenges, but always with God's guiding hand.
Right.
Moses reminds them of that.
Driving home the point that God's support won't vanish just because Moses, is stepping down.
It's like he's saying, look, I'm not irreplaceable. God's got this.
Exactly.
And then he takes a step that solidifies that message.
Okay.
He formally appoints Joshua as the new leader.
Yes.
This isn't just a casual, hey, you take over moment, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
The source material really highlights that this transition is divinely ordained.
Right.
It's not just Moses making a decision. It's God working through Moses to ensure the continuity of his promises to the Israelites.
Right.
And you can see the same pattern throughout the Old Testament. God chooses leaders, guides them,
Right.
and then when it's time, raises up new leaders to carry the torch forward.
It's like a well-choreographed relay race with God as the coach.
Yes.
Making sure the baton is passed smoothly.
I like that analogy.
And this resonates with us today, too,
Yeah.
because we see this in organizations and even in families.
Yeah.
That passing of knowledge and responsibility
Yes.
to ensure that a vision, a mission continues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It speaks to the enduring nature of purpose
Right.
and the importance of succession planning.
Yes.
But let's move on to something really unique in chapter 32,
Okay.
the Song of Moses.
Okay.
It's not just a speech.
Yeah.
It's this powerful, almost poetic expression of faith.
Right.
Almost like he's putting his heart into a song,
Yeah.
a message that will echo through the generations.
You can really see that.
Yeah.
The commentary we're looking at even calls it a hymn.
Really?
And what's interesting is the language that it uses to describe God.
Okay.
It calls him the rock, whose work is perfect and unchanging.
Powerful imagery.
Yeah, that feels incredibly relevant, even today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those qualities, strength, righteousness, unwavering love, they offer a foundation for navigating life's complexities.
Yeah.
Regardless of who you are or what you believe,
Right.
it's an invitation to consider how those attributes embodied in the rock might apply to our own lives and the challenges we face.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just ancient history.
Right?
It's a message that speaks to the human experience across time.
It does.
But, Moses isn't all sunshine and roses here, is he?
He's not.
He gets real.
Yeah.
Warns the Israelites about the potential for future struggles. He doesn't just send them off with a good luck pat on the back.
Right. In fact, he prophetically warns them
Yeah.
about specific temptations they'll face.
Wow.
And the very real consequences of straying from God's path.
So he knew.
He did. Remember, he's led these people for 40 years.
Yeah.
He knows them,
Well-
knows their weaknesses.
Yeah.
He knows that even after reaching the promised land,
Right.
they'll be tempted to forget God, to turn to other gods, to fall back into old patterns.
It's like that wise, experienced parent giving their kids advice before sending them off to college.
Yeah.
They know the temptations that are out there, and they're not afraid to talk about them.
Exactly.
And it injects a dose of realism into this whole narrative.
It does.
It's not sugarcoating things.
No.
He's preparing them for the complexities of life, of human nature.
And the source material points out that these warnings actually foreshadow the future struggles of the Israelites.
Really?
Yeah, it's like Moses is giving them and us a sneak peek into what will happen if they forget the rock,
Wow.
if they abandon the principles that have brought them this far.
It's like he's holding up a mirror to human nature saying, here's what happens when you forget who you are and whose you are.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah. But then he balances those warnings with something beautiful.
Okay.
Chapter 33, where Moses bestows blessings on each of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes, it's reminiscent of when Jacob blessed his sons.
Okay.
Each tribe gets these unique words of hope, strength, and purpose. It's as if he's shaping their individual identities and roles within the nation.
Imagine being one of those Israelites, standing there listening to Moses speak those words over your tribe. Yeah. I bet it felt like you were being seen and known in this really profound way.
It must have.
Like he's giving them each a special gift, something to hold on to as they move forward.
It's a remarkable scene.
It is.
The source compares it to a parent giving heartfelt advice to each of their children.
Oh, wow.
Recognizing their unique gifts and potential.
Yeah.
Moses is acknowledging the individuality of each tribe while uniting them under a common purpose.
It's like he's weaving a tapestry, right?
Yes.
Each thread is different.
Right.
But together, they create this beautiful, unified picture.
Beautiful.
Such a powerful image of leadership.
It is.
To see the individuals encourage their strengths and guide them towards a shared goal.
Exactly.
But as we know, all good things must come to an end.
They do. And in chapter 34, we reach that end, a poignant farewell as Moses ascends Mount Nebo and God grants him a view of the promised land.
I can only imagine what that must have felt like, to see the fulfillment of God's promise, the destination he's been leading people toward for decades, but knowing he can't enter himself.
Yeah.
There's so much emotion packed into that scene.
It is bittersweet, for sure.
What stands out to you about this moment?
Well, no, it's like standing on the cusp of a dream, but not being able to step into it.
Right.
The source material really emphasizes the visual representation of Moses' leadership coming to a close.
Okay.
It's almost a physical manifestation of the passing of the torch.
And it reminds us that sometimes we might not personally reach the promised land, whatever that looks like for us, but our efforts can still pave the way for others.
Right.
It's about playing our part in a bigger story.
Exactly. It challenges us to think about what we're working towards.
Yeah.
What mountains we're climbing, and how our journeys might inspire those who come after us.
Okay, so Moses has seen the promised land.
Yes.
He's given his final blessings and warnings.
He has.
What happens next?
Moses passes away peacefully on Mount Nebo, and God himself buries him in an undisclosed location.
Wow.
It's a powerful image shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
The source material points out that even the location of his grave is unknown.
Really?
Which adds this layer of reverence and awe to his passing.
It's like his final resting place is intentionally hidden, almost, to emphasize that his legacy isn't tied to a physical location.
Right.
But to the impact he had on the people, the faith he embodied.
Yes.
And speaking of impact and legacy, his story doesn't end there.
You're absolutely right. This ending is also a beginning.
Right.
Leadership transitions to Joshua, who, as the source tells us, is filled with the spirit of wisdom, ready to guide the Israelites into this new era.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder that God's plans don't hinge on a single individual.
Yeah.
Even when someone as significant as Moses passes from the scene, God's purposes continue to unfold.
There's a beautiful continuity. There isn't there?
There is.
It speaks to the enduring nature of faith purpose and God's faithfulness.
Exactly. The book of Deuteronomy and the Pentateuch as a whole concludes with this sense of hope and anticipation for what lies ahead.
Yeah.
Think about it. The Pentateuch begins with creation and ends with the Israelites poised to enter the Promised Land.
Wow.
It's a story of beginnings and endings of God's faithfulness through it all.
And isn't it fascinating how this ancient story connects with something very relevant to us today?
I think so.
The Pentateuch, for those who might not be familiar, is the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Right.
It lays the foundation for so much of the Jewish and Christian faith.
It does.
And this theme of transition, of trusting God through change, is something we all grapple with, would you say?
Absolutely. We see this play out in our own lives, in our families, workplaces, communities.
Right.
Leaders come and go.
Yes.
Seasons change. Unexpected challenges arise.
Right.
The question is, how do we navigate those transitions while remaining anchored in something bigger than ourselves?
Yeah.
Something that gives us hope and direction.
That's the key, isn't it? To find that anchor, that source of guidance that helps us weather the storms and celebrate the victories.
It is.
And looking at Moses' example, I think that anchor for him was his unwavering faith in God's promises.
And in that unwavering faith, he found the strength to lead, to persevere, to leave behind a legacy that continues to inspire.
It makes you think, what will our legacies be?
It does.
What will people remember about us?
Good question.
It's not just about achievements or titles, is it?
I don't think so.
It's about the impact we have on others, the values we embody, the way we choose to navigate this journey called life.
That's a great point, and it brings us back to the listener who is probably navigating their own transitions,
Right.
facing their own challenges, working towards their own goals and dreams.
Yes.
So let's bring this back to them.
Yeah.
How can we apply these lessons from Moses' final message to our modern lives?
Right.
How can we cultivate a legacy of faith, leadership, and purpose?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is.
I think first and foremost starts with self-reflection.
Okay.
What are your core values? What impact do you want to have on the world?
Yeah.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind?
And once you've identified those things,
Yeah.
the next step is to align your actions with your values, to make choices, even small ones, that reflect the kind of person you want to be and the kind of difference you want to make.
It's about living intentionally, isn't it?
It is.
And understanding that even small acts of kindness, courage, and compassion can ripple outwards, creating a positive impact that extends far beyond ourselves.
Exactly. And just as Moses invested in Joshua preparing him for leadership,
Right.
we too can play a role in shaping the next generation.
Yeah.
Whether it's mentoring someone, sharing our knowledge, or simply encouraging those around us, we can all contribute to building a better future.
That's a beautiful thought, that our actions today can have a ripple effect that extends far into the future. And speaking of the future, as we move into our final segment, I think it's important to reflect on that concept of the Promised Land itself.
Okay.
It's more than just a physical location, isn't it?
It is.
Right.
It feels symbolic, representing something much deeper. And, throughout the source material, the Promised Land is described as a place of abundance, peace, and fulfillment.
Right.
The realization of God's promises to the Israelites.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, and this brings up an interesting question for us today.
Okay.
If you were to imagine your own Promised Land, what would that look like? What are the dreams, aspirations, or goals that represent that ultimate destination, that sense of fulfillment for you?
That's a really powerful question to consider.
Yeah.
It pushes us to think beyond the day-to-day and envision what truly matters in the grand scheme of things.
Right. What gives our lives meaning and purpose.
Exactly. And remember, Moses never actually stepped foot in the Promised Land.
Right.
But that didn't diminish the significance of his life or his leadership. He lived a life of purpose. He followed God's guidance. He left a legacy that still resonates with us today.
Yeah.
So it's not just about reaching the destination,
Right.
but about how we journey towards it.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the journey, the ups and downs, the challenges and the victories.
Yeah.
Knowing that we're moving towards something meaningful, even if we don't personally reach that final goal.
And isn't that true of life in general?
Yeah.
There are so many things we work towards, dreams we chase, but the journey itself is where we learn, grow, and make a difference.
Right.
It's where our character is forged.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Moses' final message, I think there are a few key takeaways we can carry with us.
Absolutely. First, no matter what promised land we're striving for, it's essential to remember that God is with us every step of the way.
Yes.
He guides us, strengthens us, and works through us even when we can't see the full picture.
It's about trusting in a plan bigger than ourselves, just like Moses did. And secondly, our lives have meaning and purpose, regardless of whether we achieve all of our goals or reach all of our destinations. It's about the impact we have, the love we share, and the legacy we leave behind.
Well said. We can find inspiration in Moses' example, his unwavering faith, his dedication to his people, and his willingness to trust God's plan, even when it meant personal sacrifice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Moses' final message. We've covered a lot of ground, and I hope you've gained some valuable insights about leadership, faith, and legacy.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. And remember, even though our deep dive ends here, the journey of discovery continues.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep seeking, and keep asking those big questions that lead to a deeper understanding of life and your place in it.
Until next time, keep diving deeper into the knowledge that matters most to you.